In our family, there is a definite longevity gene. It's on my father's side. My dad's about to turn 96. His aunt, my great aunt, was such a dynamo who lived to the age of 108. She was around well into my adulthood, and I would visit her at her senior living facility in New Jersey when I could, and it was so much fun to go see her. She was funny. She was sharp as she could be. In fact, when she turned 100, I did a story on her and that milestone. I sat down with her in her living room for a story on longevity on CBS New York. Take a look at just a small portion of what we talked about. That's the Charleston.
Oh, yes. Charleston. Black Bottom.
What is that?
Black Bottom? You never saw the Black Bottom? Black Bottom. Here, there, there. Black Bottom.
So for those who couldn't see, she got up out of her chair and she danced the Black Bottom for me. I used to ask her when I was working in local news in New York, hey, Aunt Elma, did you catch my newscast last night? And she would say, no, I had to watch Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. She loved Jon Stewart. That's how hip she was. She was up to date. So my dad often refers to Aunt Elma when he thinks about his own longevity, looking at her lifespan somehow as the family standard, 108. But he also lately has expressed a lot of frustration about the aging process. He likes to say, the first 90 were great. If we are lucky, we get to live a long life with almost flawless mental clarity right up to the end. And that brings us to the subject we're talking about today. One of life's unexpectancies, throwing a curveball at a segment of our aging population. It also impacts their loved ones, family members, because there's a sort of shrapnel that comes with this diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. It can come on gradually. It's a form of dementia now affecting nearly 7 million Americans over the age of 65. The National Institutes of Health estimates that number could actually double to nearly 14 million by the year 2060. 14 million people. That's barring any breakthroughs to prevent Alzheimer's or develop a cure, understand more about how it affects our brain and our bodies. I'm Jim Rosenfield, and this is Life Unexpectancy, a podcast focused on how we navigate life's curveballs and triumphs when there is no instruction manual.
I guess it is what it is till it isn't. Yes, it is what it is.
My guest today is an Emmy and Tony-nominated actor and singer who starred along Jennifer Garner as Jack Bristow in the hit show Alias. He helped Reese Witherspoon's Elle Woods win the case in Legally Blonde.
Ms. Woods, you did well today.
Really?
You're applying for my internship, aren't you?
I don't know.
You should. Do you have a resume?
Yes, I do. Here it is.
It's pink.
Oh, and it's scented. I think it gives it a little something extra, don't you think?
He couldn't keep the Titanic afloat, but he played the doomed shipbuilder in the hit film.
As she goes down by the head, the water will spill over the tops of the bulkheads. At E-deck, from one to the next, back and back. There's no stopping it.
The pumps. If we open the doors...
The pumps buy you time, but minutes only. From this moment, no matter what we do, Titanic will founder.
He's also been in countless Broadway productions, including Sweeney Todd and Death Trap. Victor Garber, welcome to Life Unexpectancy. So glad you're here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. So you grew up in Canada, London, Ontario.
Yes.
Mom named Hope, dad Joseph.
Yes. Yes.
And you're one of 3 children. Is that right?
Yes. I'm the middle child. My sister is the youngest, and my brother Nathan is the eldest.
And I understand music was a part of your family growing up. You come by it naturally.
Yeah, my mom was a really gifted singer, and my father had a musical. He could play piano by ear, and and there was music. That was one of the great things about our growing up, is that there was always music. And my brother and I were in a folk singing group, and then but it was that was the good part. That was the good part.
good memories of that. And your mom had a television show of her own for a while?
Yeah, our mother was a celebrity in London, Ontario. Hope Garber, her show was called At Home with Hope Garber. And the irony was that she was not the greatest homemaker. She wasn't so good at it, but she certainly sounded like she was.
You talk about the good memories. There was a split, right? Your parents divorced at a certain point. How old were you when that happened?
I think I was probably my early teens when it all started happening. I mean, I left home when I was 16, so I wasn't around much. My sister was sort of there. My brother had left. My sister was sort of left alone, and I feel somewhat guilty about leaving her there. But I left home and moved to Toronto from London, Ontario when I was 16.
16?
Yeah.
To go to school or what?
No, I quit school. I have no high school education. I have no education. I have faked my way to this point in my life.
Fake it till you make it. I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Done okay.
So was that move at 16 to pursue theater, or what was going on?
Well, it was to pursue. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. I was a singer then. Mostly I sang, I played guitar. I worked in coffee houses in Yorkville, in Toronto. The point is, I wasn't. My parents, the Alzheimer's came late. It came much later. I had already left home when that started happening. My father developed it first, and then my mother after him. But they had long divorced. And she lived in Los Angeles, and my father lived in London, Ontario.
So here's where this life unexpectancy begins. Your dad is diagnosed at about what age, Victor?
He was in his mid 70s, I think, about where I am now. And I'm not. My memory has never been great, even when I was younger. But yes, it was my sister who you'll be talking to later. She'll have better dates and names, numbers. But yeah, it started. I wasn't there when it was diagnosed, but I would see him as often as I could, but I could tell whenever in earlier that when I would see him that something wasn't right. As soon as he gave up golf, I knew that we were in trouble because that was his one passion. And when he stopped playing golf, I thought we're in for a long haul here.
And it was more than just, he's getting older and he can't play the game anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was diagnosed pretty much. I mean, our family, Alzheimer's was not immediate in our family at the time that I can remember, but it was, it was a double whammy. First my father, then my mother. But it was clear that something was amiss, and he was remarried at that time, and she was Lisa is also her name. She was very on top of it and was concerned.
Your mother had moved to Los Angeles, and you happened to be in Los Angeles at the same time, right?
Well, it was kind of ironic. I mean, when Alias started, which was in 2000, I guess it was, because our first, we were just after the turn of the century. And my mother had been living there for quite some time and was having, a decent life there. She did occasional bits and pieces on TV things and movie things, and she was living her life, and she loved Los Angeles, and she had her own apartment. And then when I got there, I started noticing that things were not, suddenly the magazine's subscriptions had doubled, and she was getting the same magazines, and her life was in disarray, and I knew that something was wrong, and sure enough, it was Alzheimer's.
Was she aware in the early stages that something was wrong?
She didn't really talk about it. She just was like, oh, I forgot this, and oh, I couldn't remember this, and she was kind of in denial, I think, partially. And also, my mother was always had a kind of, she had a superficial personality that you wouldn't know that something was wrong with her necessarily. You know, she was very good at she was a good actress in that way, and but it was clear that, you know, when I would go to her apartment and, you know, there wasn't food in the refrigerator, and she was definitely she was heading down. And that's when I fortunately, because I was working, I could afford to put her in a facility, and that was my goal completely. And I never wanted her to be in the Alzheimer's. So we kind of faked our way in, because she was functioning. She wasn't. She was very personable, and, you know, So we got her an apartment in this facility, but had no real kitchen. And then I hired a personal caregiver to be with her as time went on, so that she was as never really alone, or very rarely in the apartment. And it was, you know, a small, very pleasant. She had a nice view. I felt very comfortable. It had just been built. It was Belmont Village, and now there are many of them. But it was one of the first, and it was accessible to where I lived. And so, and my brother, you know, who lived in London at the time, said, "Why don't we send her back to London, and we can put her across the street?" And I said, "Mother is not going back to London, Ontario. She loves the weather here." And I thought that sending her back there would be the wrong. I mean, he understood that finally, but it was sort of my decision, because I was paying for it, and I was happy to do that, and was so grateful that I had the job.
She's so fortunate to have had you right there in LA. The timing.
Yeah, it was fortunate for both of us.
So here's the haunting question, Victor. You've lost your father to Alzheimer's. Now you see your mother in the throes of the disease. I'm wondering, were you thinking, is this where I'm headed?
Of course, the thought crossed my mind, but I didn't really start thinking about it until the last year or two, when I've noticed that my cognitive powers have diminished somewhat. I know, and everybody says, "Well, you're getting older," and I said, "Yes, but I don't think that always has to happen." And I think that so much of it, and I've learned, my sister, who you'll be talking to, introduced me to Dale Bredesen, Dr. Bredesen's book called The End of Alzheimer's. And I picked it up, and I couldn't read a lot of the scientific stuff, but I did understand one thing, that there are ways to help stop the progression. And it's very simple. It's diet, exercise, and supplements. Which a lot of, you know, people would say, "Oh, that can't be true," but I believe in it, and I'm doing better because of it.
Have you had any moments, Victor, where you mentioned your brain's not working the way it used to? I think we all feel, you know, that part of the aging process. I'm not as sharp. I can't, if I play Jeopardy, I can't recall the answers or the questions quickly enough. But have you noticed anything markedly different, or had a moment where you got scared? If there's anything you can share on that.
Yeah, several months ago, I thought, I'm not functioning the way I should be functioning. And that's when I talked to my sister, and she told me about this book, and I did that. And I changed my doctor, my GP, who actually follows the protocol of Dr. Bredesen. And I'm feeling like, you know, I could still remember things, but I would forget odd things, and I've definitely noticed an improvement since I've been, you know, I stopped drinking so much. I didn't drink a lot, but I would have a glass of wine or two, or a martini once in a while. And as you know, and I really cut that back, and that's made a difference. And I'm also taking different supplements that my doctor prescribed, and I'm going in for another checkup in a couple of weeks to see, and they'll do, he'll be able to take blood tests and see where I am. I mean, I wasn't when I first went. He said, "You're okay, but your brain, you have your hippo." I don't know what's called what's it called? The hippocampus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Yeah, that one. He said it's slightly diminished, but he said you're not in any danger. You're not. It's not like. But he said it could progress, but there's a way to help that. And I think that's the biggest problem I've had with the Alzheimer's Association, is that mostly they're looking for a cure, and there is no cure. There is no one cure. Alzheimer's is different for everybody, but there are certainly things you can do to help the progress of it. And that's my experience. I only can speak for myself.
And just to be clear, you've not had a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
God, no. I would have said that.
I want to make that clear.
No. I have not had that. But it's in my genes. Obviously, I have one gene, not two, which is the same for my sister. And I don't know what my older brother has, because I don't think he's ever had a test about it. But my sister and I both have, and we both have one gene, which is, it's less. It's not, and that's not a guarantee you'll get it, but it's less likely than if you have two genes.
So your sister Lisa urged you to consider adopting some lifestyle changes. Did you, without your sister in the picture though, do you think you would have been searching for answers that would be difficult to find? In other words, as you faced what happened to both your parents, was there a moment where you felt, what do I do?
Not at that time, not until recently. Because I was functioning. I mean, I could remember lines on stage. I mean, I wouldn't trust myself so much now in a theater piece, but I actually did a reading the other night of a new thing that they're developing, and I tried to see if I could memorize the lines. It was a very short scene, but I was able to. I worked really hard, and I've always worked really hard on memorizing, and I've been successful at it. And it surprised me that I could still, remember things. And I did episodes of And Just Like That in the last year or two, and I did fine. So it's really just maintenance at this point. I just if I can just stay like this for the next however long I have, I'm okay.
Well, we want to meet your sister Lisa. Lisa Garber, welcome to Life Unexpectancy.
So nice to be here. Thank you for having me, Jim.
We're so happy to sort of have this family reunion.
Yeah, it's sweet, isn't it?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, brother.
How often do you guys get to see each other? Because you're in Canada, right, Lisa?
I am. I'm in Toronto. Yes. We see each other as often as we can, but we do see each other on the phone, as a couple of times a month.
So we've met now two of the three Garber kids, if you will. Your brother is not with us today, but you two have been the ones who have been most proactive about tackling whether there's anything to do about this life unexpectancy.
Yes, in fact, you could call me obsessed.
Really?
Proactive is a polite way of saying obsessed.
So?
How so? Because I'm obsessed. I read everything. I do all the research. I go to the doctors. I spend money. I tell everybody. I was in the aisle of the health food store the other day picking up some vegetables, and a woman picked up a vegetable. I said something about it, and she said something, and then I said Alzheimer's. She said, "Oh, Bredesen," and all of a sudden we had coffee. Like, it's just, I'm obsessed. Because I don't want it. We watched. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. You just don't want it. And now I understand you don't have to get it. So why wouldn't I just be obsessed?
To both of you, this question, and this is a difficult one. Victor, you talked a little bit about this. Lisa, have you had experiences or moments when you thought, is something going on with me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So now, keeping in mind that these moments may not be related to cognitive functioning, but we are geared to see it that way. If cancer had been in our family, we'd probably be thinking that, or, something else. But yeah, I got out of the shower one day and didn't know where I was. Like had a moment of, I don't know where I am. Yeah, that scared me. In fact, it created a panic that had me in bed for about 3 hours. I was on the phone trying to get my girlfriend trying to talk me down. So when that happened, I went, okay, could this be something? And I had already, I think I had already read Bredesen. I had. So I got on the internet one more time looking in Toronto for somebody because there just wasn't anybody. And finally somebody popped up. And so I immediately went and started the protocol 7 years ago.
So we've mentioned his name several times. You're talking about Dale Bredesen, a former neurologist at University of California, San Francisco, I believe. We should note he's a former neurologist, but as I understand it, reportedly, according to the New York Times, he has not had a medical license in 3 decades. But you guys are all in. He has a plan that he claims will help ward off Alzheimer's. The book that he wrote is called The End of Alzheimer's. I know he said in a recent article in the New York Times, after the fact, he realized maybe that title should have been a little bit different. But he calls for lifestyle changes as a way to follow a protocol that purports to prevent symptoms of Alzheimer's. What goes into this protocol, and how difficult is it to follow?
Well, it's less difficult than you would think. I mean, it's Lisa can really explain it much more articulately than I can. All I know is that since I've been doing this for the last several months, I feel, I mean, first of all, if you give up drinking and you stop eating sugar, your chances of living longer and healthier, just go with that. I mean, that's why I'm so, it's sort of like, I don't know if this is the cure for Alzheimer's. I don't really care. All I know is that I want to just somehow continue living a full life. And when you look at the rise in the intake of sugar in our society, I mean, they're saying it's an epidemic, which is clearly true. And that's only going to affect your brain, of course. And I know, I'm an uneducated guy, as I've mentioned, but I do know that makes sense to me. So, and I'm also a type 1 diabetic. So I've actually lost about 20 pounds since I've been on much more conscious of what I've been eating. And it was as much diabetes, but in a way more for my mental, my cognitive powers that I got on this protocol.
And Lisa, I know there are other buckets. There's sort of the lifestyle changes that you have to sort of follow, some easier than others. Can you explain what your regime looks like?
Yes, I certainly, my regime is a good word. So first of all, he doesn't say it's a cure, and he never did. He never said it was a cure. It is a way to manage it and to reverse some of these symptoms. I just watched patient 0 being interviewed on a YouTube the other day. Patient 0 was the first person that he did the protocol with. She's now 80, and she's a health coach, and she's walking across America in order to bring attention to this. Unbelievable. And she got lost driving home from somewhere those 10 or 12 years ago. She couldn't find her way home. Now she's walking across America. She's a health coach. She's remarkable. But she said when she lost some of the regime, it came back. So she says this isn't a cure. This is a way to manage what probably the damage has already been done by what Victor was saying, which is our American lifestyle. So there are a number of buckets. One mentioned diet, which is not easy for people. It took me 5 years to get off sugar. I started this 7 years ago. I've been off sugar now for 2.5 years. Completely. And but it took me 5 years to be able to do that. And I worked really hard. I had to do all kinds of stuff, but I found a way. Happy.
Victor, how are you doing with that?
Much better. I mean, I obviously my sugar intake was less than most people, but I would always say, oh, I'll just have a little bite of that, or a little, and the irony is that there are times when my blood sugar drops and I have to, have something sweet to, and I'm trying to just do glucose tablets and not, chocolate pudding. But it's complicated, and it's not as I'm dealing with type 1 diabetes, so that is honestly the biggest issue I have right now, because that's every day something goes wrong. But it's just a kind of a protocol that you think, okay, just do this, and I've just been eating less, and I don't miss eating the way I just don't eat the way I used to, and it's so much. I feel so much better.
It's amazing. It's a simple, but we all know this, right? The problem isn't that we don't know this. The problem is it's not easy to do those dietary changes. Then there is inflammation. So another cause of problems, cognitive problems, is inflammation. So there's things that we can take to help with inflammation. Another issue is the trophic, which is are we getting enough D, enough C? Do we have, are we metabolizing the B vitamins that we might be even taking? So there's a whole issue about what to take for that. That can make a huge difference. But then there's sleep. So this is the latest one. I said 7 years I've been doing this. I just explored sleep and had a sleep study done. And guess what? I have sleep apnea. And guess what? I'm going to have to get, and did actually, and try to figure it all out, how to do the thing in the sleep. But it's going to my oxygen levels were down to 50% at night.
That's dangerous.
Dangerous and not good for the brain at all. So there's sleep. Then there is toxins. And this is something for a lot of people, they don't realize there's mold in their homes. And so I live in a rental. I'm not about to do it, but I did just get rid of my bath mat, which had some mildew, I'm pretty sure. So I can do things like that. But toxins are huge. And then there's things like viruses, like a lot of people have Lyme's disease and don't know it. And that looks like Alzheimer's. And yet, so 40-year-olds are getting Alzheimer's, only it isn't Alzheimer's. It's Lyme's disease causing cognitive problems. There's something else I can't remember. There's 7 buckets. Jim, do you remember?
Well, there's the supplements, and I know you take more than a handful every day, right?
Yeah, I do. I do.
What are the supplements?
Whoa. I'm taking a lot of B vitamins, and they're methylated because part of the study, I don't know how complicated you want to get, but part of it is if you have this particular gene, not just the ApoE4, which is the one Victor was talking about, but there's another gene called the MTHRF or something. And that means you don't actually metabolize B vitamins. So when you don't metabolize B vitamins, your mitochondria cannot work. Mitochondria is the number one thing they're looking at for Alzheimer's. Mitochondria, don't ask me what it does. I know, but I don't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, I do know, but I'm not going to get into it. So I take these.
We're all Googling right now.
There you go. I do take these methylated B vitamins. I take C and D and E and A. I also take, things for brain health. It's in a capsule, so I don't know all the words that are in it. And I take magnesium threonate. So magnesium threonate is the one for the brain. I know Victor takes a citrate, I think, also because that's really helpful for everything else. But the threonate is particularly good for the brain. A lot of vitamin D. I take a lot of vitamin D, and I don't seem to be metabolizing it very well. So I have to go out in the sun. I haven't been in the sun in 30 years. So I have to go out in the sun more, the doctor said, even for 10 minutes to get the D going. And then he also says in his book things like ashwagandha and, things that are good that come from different sources, like that's an Indian herb, very good for memory. I don't take it yet. It's like I said, it's taking me years to get, because I wasn't completely, I wasn't diagnosed, right? This is all preventative. I didn't feel like I had to do it all at once. And frankly, if I tried to do it all at once, I couldn't. Oh, I know the other one, exercise. Hugely important.
Yeah.
Hugely important. Like ridiculously important. So, yeah, I do all that. You see why I say obsessed? But it's just become my lifestyle. And stress management. Oh my God, stress management is the other one. Now, I've been a meditator for 40 years. See my little, so my, that has not been difficult, but I've added yoga also. So for the last 2 years, I've been doing 10, 15 minutes of yoga in the morning before I meditate. It really helps. Yeah, there's no way I'm getting this disease.
Got to point out, as you well know, there are skeptics, right? And the New York Times, in fact, had a front page article, and the headline was, "An expensive Alzheimer's lifestyle and offers false hope," experts say. Thousands have paid for Dr. Dale Bredesen's unconventional program to reverse Alzheimer's symptoms. And I know there have been other critics in recent years. Dr. Joanna Helmuth of UCSF's Memory and Aging Center, in an article in 2020 in The Lancet Neurology, said, when carefully examined, multiple red flags appear in the scientific studies supporting the Bredesen protocol, and to date, the evidence does not support its claim to prevent and reverse cognitive decline. Hope is important in the face of incurable diseases, and intuitive interventions can be compelling, she said. However, unsupported interventions are not medically, ethically, or financially benign, particularly when other parties might stand to gain. Elisa, you said to me when we spoke, it's not false hope. Why do you say that? Why do you believe that?
Because he has, well, I just listened to patient zero, right? My goodness, if that doesn't give you hope, even if it, you know what they say, if it works for one person, then you've got something. That's validation right there. And it's worked for hundreds now. My feeling is that I think it's a really good thing that the, what do we call it, the conventional medical world thinks this is not real. I think that's a good sign. Because look at this conventional medical world. It's great when you break your leg, but it cannot prevent anything. So when I went for the sleep apnea, the conventional doctor said, you have sleep apnea, your tongue is falling in, you're not breathing at night. My functional doctor said, okay, I wonder why that's happening. And that's the difference. So Bredesen says, why is this happening? And let's figure out why it's happening. And my goodness, there's things we can do to help with the why. So yeah, I think it's fine that they think he's a quack. I think that's a good sign.
The Times story also said, quoting him, Bredesen maintains that the results of his program can be remarkable, though he acknowledges it's less successful for people with more noticeable symptoms. But he was quoted as saying, it amazes me how people fight back against something that's actually helping. Victor, what do you say to the critics?
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, if it's helping you, I mean, what is this determination to say it's quackery? What say, okay, it works for some and not for others. I mean, it's not to sort of dismiss these things. I don't really, as Lisa said, I mean, you know, we're just two people doing this and feeling better. So that's all I know. That's all I know. I don't really, if somebody wants to try it, good. I wish you all the best. But to sort of, you know, dismiss it, you know, it's to me counterproductive. You know, let's just work together and see, maybe, you know, I really don't know what the Alzheimer's, what they're looking for a cure, it like a drug. That makes no sense to me. And I think that's part of the problem. They're waiting till they have the drug to cure Alzheimer's, which would be lovely. I'm very glad that Frederick Banting discovered insulin because that's why I'm alive. But in terms of Alzheimer's, well, what do we have?
How important is it, though, from both of you, to speak with your own doctor if you have concerns about your cognitive health?
It's crucial. That's why I changed my doctor.
Change doctors. The system in Canada is different than the States. Some of it is excellently good, and some of it is not quite so good. But you have to, I think this is true. We knew this actually with our parents. We had to advocate for them, right? Victor had to advocate for Hope to make sure she got a good place, that she didn't get stuck into a room with people who can't speak, right? We had to advocate for my father, that he had a place to go every few days to do something, even though they treated them like children, which I found really disturbing. But at least he had a place to go and interact with people. Had to advocate. And I think we do that with our health. I think for whatever reason, I and Victor both have do that with our health before we were worried about Alzheimer's. Because why would I trust somebody else with my life? I just wouldn't. So I do the research and I do make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So that, as you can see, we feel strongly about it. And I guess because we watched our parents decline, and it was, may I just say, heartbreaking? It was heartbreaking. Terrible.
Yeah, especially when they begin to not know who you are.
Yeah, the last time we saw our father, Victor and I watched this man sitting in a chair staring out the window. He didn't respond to us. He didn't say anything. He couldn't feed himself. We walked out of there and looked at each other like, how do we deal with this?
It rattles you to the core.
It breaks your heart.
Yeah, it's unbearable. And I'm so grateful for my little sister, who I still refer to as my little sister, because she gave me the courage and also just said, you have options here. And she's been very supportive of me. And, I'm doing the best I can. That I know. I don't know what else I can do other than, but some days I think, I could have done better.
Are there projects in the works that you want to share with us, Victor, that you're still working, right?
Yes, I'm still working.
Yeah.
Not as much as I'd like. There's not a lot going on at the moment, but there's things ahead, and I do readings, and I do what I can. But I'm optimistic. And
Lisa, you're a coach, life coach.
I am. I've been a life coach for over 20 years. Yeah. I was one of the originals in Canada, and I love it, and I still do it. Yeah.
And that, I have to imagine, helped you navigate what do we do after losing both parents to Alzheimer's.
Yes, I certainly would say that because before I was a coach, I was a therapist. So before that, I was a singer-songwriter. So it was a good thing that I changed, because as a singer-songwriter, I wasn't navigating things all that well. But after going back to school, because I also had dropped out when I was 16, but I went back when I was in my 30s, and I graduated with a master's degree. I did a lot of personal growth work and still do. And yes, that helps immensely, which, by the way, Bredesen's organization has health coaches. And I believe that's extremely helpful when you're trying to go through something like this, because they will just help you walk through it step by step in a way and support the family. It's very, very important.
Well, I so appreciate you both joining us on Life Unexpectancy. And you may not want this, but I hope you live as long and productive and enriched a life as my great aunt Elma, who made it to 108.
Nothing would make me happier.
I'll be dancing.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
The content in this episode is not intended to be medical advice. Consult your own doctor about any concerns you might have about Alzheimer's in your family. Our producer is Noni Colada. Our researcher, Will Thompson. Our editor is Mike Hurst. And our theme music is from Pat Byrne.
Yes, it is what it is.